Hi everyone, welcome back to Search for Truth Bible Studies. Today we'll carry on our session with Lesson 3, Chart 3. Alright, so Lesson 3, Chart 3 follows the story of the human race, follows the story of Noah after the ark has come to a rest on the mountaintop, and basically Noah and his family they are able to come off the ark. The animals are able to be released, and then they carry on building the new world from there. Right. So let's take a look at this chart section by section. Right. So when God allowed the waters to recede, right, and Noah and his family were able to exit the ark, the commandment that God gave to Noah was this, right? Be fruitful, multiply, and replenish the earth. So really, the world needs to be repopulated, right? Basically, Noah was given a blessing to repopulate the earth, right, with his family, right? Now, God also said to Noah that whenever they see a sign in the rainbow, or whenever they see a rainbow in the sky, it's a sign that God will never again destroy the world with water. So that's God's way of promising that He will hold to His word. He will continue to exercise mercy, right? And the Bible also makes some interesting comments about how actually because of the new world that they are in right now, there will be beginning of seasons, right? So it suggests that prior to this particular point in time, there were no four seasons in the way we experience the world today in terms of extreme cold and heat, right? So it seems that after Noah's Ark, after the flood, something has probably changed quite significantly in the atmosphere and the world we lived in, right, to allow the beginning of seasons. The Bible also spoke about how God gave Noah rules about eating of animals. In fact, this is the first mention in a very explicit way that right now animals are given to human beings for food, which suggests that prior to this, it's very likely that the human race was probably vegetarian, right, or did not eat animals. At the same time, there's a very specific mention about not eating blood, and it was explained in the same passage about why, because life is in the blood, and mankind is to respect life the way God has created. He also mentions this particular development about animals developing a fear of mankind. So that's why when you look at animals in the wild today, the first instinct of animals is to avoid humankind, to avoid being discovered. So even the largest of predators, right? Scientists tell us that their first response is never to come to attack or to provoke human beings, but rather only when provoked do they lash out, right? So always the instinct of animals is to avoid humankind. Now, the Bible also talks about how the earth gets repopulated by Noah's children and Noah's descendants, right? Today is quite commonly accepted through different studies in anthropology, archaeology, and various sciences that it is very plausible that the world that we live in today, the diversity in the human population, genetics, so on and so forth, right? I mean, it is very plausible that we all came from common ancestors, and these common ancestors probably originated somewhere in the North African or Mediterranean region, right? So all these are consistent with descriptions of the Bible in terms of where civilization started. Now, and then we read of a very curious event, right, of something that happened between Noah and his sons, right? The Bible talks about how Noah, as he began to tend to vineyards and started to grow grapes and produce alcohol, he got drunk and then became naked in his drunkenness. one of his sons, Ham, it wasn't clear exactly what he did in the Bible, but at least what is clear enough is that he embarrassed his father. He probably had mocked his father, or some Bible scholars have suggested he did more than just mocking his father in the verbal way, right? He told his brothers, and his two other brothers decided to, in a certain form of a respect, to cover up his father's nakedness. Now, this particular event has led to basically cursing and blessings from Noah. So it seemed that Noah, through this particular event, has pronounced curses on his second son, or rather his son Ham, right, and the descendants of Ham. Now, again, it is not exactly clear what exactly Ham will have done, but this event has led to a certain kind of like a friction in the family. I thought it's kind of like something helpful for us to note that the first family outside the Garden of Eden, right, had family issues. We see that in Abel and Cain. Now, the first family after the worldwide flood had family issues, right? We see that in the case of Noah and his son Ham, right? So let's look at some key takeaways here, right? As we close up this session, we can see that despite God's judgment, he continues to make a way of escape. He allows Noah to start afresh with his family, right, in this new world, right? God used the rainbow to promise that he's faithful, and every time God says that when we see the rainbow, right, it's a sign that he'll keep to his word. He will never again destroy the world in water, right, with water. So God continues to show himself to be faithful to what he says, right? When we look at the lives of Noah and his family, mankind continues to show that they are flawed, right? Just as Cain and Abel did, how they responded. We look at how Noah responded to a certain mistake that he might have made. We look at how Ham has responded. We look at how the family has responded. Right? So mankind continue to show their flaws, right? At the same time, God's intention to redeem mankind has not changed, because God said that through Noah, he will continue to allow the human population to grow, and God's plan to redeem mankind, as he has said to Adam and Eve, right? For someone to come and redeem mankind, that plan hasn't changed, right? So that's all we have for us in this session. Right? Thank you.